Hey everybody, Jacob from Fever Dream here. Before we get started, I want to give a very light spoiler warning for Dandadan. I'm going to mention one or two things that happened in very recent chapters, but other than that, we're just going to be talking about Count Saint Germain and things that have happened chapters and months ago by this point. So, if you're not entirely caught up, you can probably feel free to watch this. You should be okay. But refrain if you want. I'm not your boss. Anyways, on to the video. This week, as I had promised a couple of weeks ago, I want to jump back into Count Saint Germain and Dandadan. A lot has happened in Dandadan since then, like now we're fighting a full-on Sharknado, which is freaking awesome. But I wanted to jump back in and reevaluate a little bit about what I had mentioned before regarding Count Saint Germain's origins in the real world in regard to Theosophy, and what we know so far about the Dandadan. Of course, we know very little about the Dandadan. The only thing we really know about the Dandadan is that Count Saint Germain is looking for it. He mentioned it after he defeated the card guy, asking if they knew anything about it, or if they were familiar with it. In the depiction that we see of it at that point, it bears a resemblance, or just is, the Central 8 Petal Hall, which I had gone over in a previous video, but I'll be bringing up again here a little bit later. Looking into Count Saint Germain, I found out that he has quite a lot of real-world inspiration somehow, or at least I think he does. It may well come into play later on in the manga. But most of the real-world lore around Count Saint Germain is centered around the kind of form of Western esotericism or occultism called Theosophy. Theosophy is a little strange. Through my research, I found out that Theosophy in general is a belief in an ancient and secretive group of spiritual adepts known as masters, who are primarily centered in Tibet but found all over the world, who have gained incredible wisdom and supernatural powers. These masters are supposedly trying to revive an ancient religion that was once found around the world. Theosophists believe in reincarnation through a process involving karma, and that the purpose of life is spiritual emancipation. Due in part to its emphasis on the spiritual masters being concentrated in Tibet, Theosophy has played a large part in bringing awareness of Eastern religions to the West. I don't really have enough knowledge on the subject to tell you whether the information that they're relaying to the West is good or reliable or not, but still. Count Saint Germain comes into all of this because many Theosophists believe that he is the ascended master of this new age, the Age of Aquarius. I don't really understand the whole zodiac or astrological age thing going on here, and from what I can tell, the Age of Aquarius is kind of disputed to even be going on at all. Some people say it already began, some people say it isn't going to begin yet, so, all we need to know for this point is that it's an astrological age, and the Theosophists believe that the Age of Aquarius has already begun, and that Count Saint Germain, for some reason, is the ascended master of it, being one of those masters I had mentioned before, people who have incredible wisdom about this super ancient religion and have gained supernatural powers as a result. Alice Bailey, one of the people who really founded Theosophy in any really meaningful way, says that it is Count Saint Germain's job to bring about a new civilization in preparation for the second coming of Christ. Most Theosophical sects agree that Count Saint Germain has lived many past lives, including the High Priest of Atlantis, which, according to them, I think was located somewhere near Cuba, Samuel, Hesiod, Plato, Saint Joseph, St. Alban, Proclus, Merlin, Roger Bacon, Christopher Columbus, and Sir Francis Bacon. So, he's been around for a very long time, according to basically every one of these Theosophical sects. Yeah, like I had mentioned previously in that other video, Count Saint Germain is also believed to have many powers, such as the ability to teleport, levitate, walk through walls, as well as other things. That may come into play within the story of Dandadan, of course. Now, looking through all of this, I think that any kind of real solid connections are going to be very difficult to make. as you've been able to see so far, there's not all that many direct links between the ideals of Theosophy that they have going on and whatever is going on with the image of the Dandadan that we saw. The only image that we have so far of the Dandadan seems to have to do specifically with Buddhism. I think there might be some interesting connections there that could be going on just because Theosophy is so deeply linked to a lot of Eastern religions, but I don't think there's anything particularly strong going on there. So I suppose that's a bit of disappointment that I have experienced going into this. I still think that we should keep a lookout for a lot more connections with Count Saint Germain. Of course, I don't think that Dandadan is really going to take all of this one-to-one. It's pretty clear that even with other things that have been going on, like Nessie and this Sharknado happening, that they're just taking popular things and remixing them for their own purposes. And I think that's what's going on here. I think it's entirely possible that the Count Saint Germain that we are seeing in Dandadan may have lived all of those same past lives. I think it's entirely possible that we see a Count Saint Germain living in Atlantis. Though, I mean, truly, that would be insane. But the entire series is insane anyways. But I don't think there's as much going on here as I thought there was. One thing that did come to mind for me when I was looking into the Central Lake Pedal Hall is that the portion of it that we see when Count Saint Germain mentions the Dandadan is the womb realm. And according to the definitions I've seen, the womb realm is the metaphysical space inhabited by the 5 Buddhas and other deities representing the unity of emptiness and great compassion. You know, I don't know all that much about Buddhism. I am not an expert in any of this, but it is interesting that the womb realm is a metaphysical space representing the unity of emptiness and great compassion in a series where we have a kind of supernatural phenomena called empty space. Even more interesting to me, at least, is that the empty space in Dandadan seems only accessible through alien technology, which isn't something that I would imagine Count Saint Germain has had great access to in the past. So I think empty space may have something to do with this, and I think it would do us well to look out for that going forwards. In conclusion, I think I've found a lot fewer connections than I was hoping to. With that being said, I think that's all I have for you today. I'm very grateful that you've come along with me on this ride, and I hope that you'll hit the like and subscribe button down below. If you liked anything you saw here, drop a comment down below if you have any thoughts about what we talked about today, and I hope I'll see you back in 2 weeks with my next video. Bye!